And also, here's the thing. I don't think a lot of schools can say it, but 12-0 until proven otherwise. Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma is one of the winningest programs of all time. Like you got championship winning coaches all over the staff. You got a guy that just led the nation in touchdowns coming in. You've got all this like best case scenario. Yeah, is always 12.
What's going on? Got my boy Travis Davidson in the studio for another beer and ball. I think that's what Mike's calling it. So that's what we're going to roll with. Couldn't go with beer today, man. I have a doctor's appointment. I didn't think going. I mean, it's early. We're kind of doing this at 3 Eastern time, 2 Central. So I can't be rolling in a doctor's office with a buzz. But Travis, my man, it's good to have you on. How have you been?
Man, I've been great. Busy, busy, busy. It's my favorite time of the year, really. I mean, I know football season, it's king, but I looked at down at my Apple Wallet the other night and I had basketball tickets, baseball tickets, softball tickets. I had all of them and I just looked at it and I just kind of smiled and I'm like, yes, it's the best time of the year, man. It really is. There's so much going on, man.
Let me ask you on that note. I just told you right before we're just going to talk football, but when OU joined, one of the topics that came up more often than not was the softball team. And I ain't gonna lie to the cousins out there. I've watched 0 softball games this year, but am I missing something special with that OU? Am I missing something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a guy, no matter what sport it is, if it's being played at its highest level, I
Yeah.
want to tune in, right? So with OU softball, I mean, just completed a 4-peat on the quest for a 5-peat. Patty Gasso's got more rings than Saban. I know you know his name in SEC country. But, I mean, she's coaching in a brand new, facility, field, Loves Field. There's a statue of her out front, so she's on the short list of people who get to coach in a stadium that also features a statue of themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. And softball, like I know SEC's, really diamond sport country in general,
Yeah.
especially with the baseball culture that I can't wait to learn more about and experience more of. But softball, man, it's because the field's smaller. It's everybody's close together. The action, the home runs, everything's closer. So like it's just built for kind of future viewers, right? Like we're in an era where, let's face it, young people, they can't pay attention very long. So they need that action, right? They maybe don't want to sit, at a baseball game and hang out, enjoy it, and all that kind of stuff. I love it. I hope more OU fans join us out at Eldon Mitchell. But part of the reason that I think we don't have some of the baseball culture that a lot of SEC schools have is because we share a parking lot with the greatest softball dynasty of all time in the middle of their dynasty. So it's like, I mean, like if you're trying to get butts in seats and you can hear the crowds, across the parking lot, it's tough. And it's funny because Skip Johnson and Gaines and Butler and Willits and all the boys at OU baseball, they've been successful. We played for a national championship in 2022. And like, it's like that by most measures. I mean, we hosted a regional last year. We were in the postseason in 2023. Like by most measures, that's an extremely successful 3 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All Oklahoma softball has done in those 3 years is win national championships every single time and and break their own win streak records. Like it's just nuts. But yeah, it's something special for sure. When you get over to Norman, at least you got to go by the facility because I imagine if you come, it'll be football season. So, like going by the facility, checking it out, it would be well worth your time.
I totally can relate. My grandfather's probably been to more basketball Lady Vols seasons. This is back when Pat Summitt was there. Like I would imagine he's seen more seasons of Lady Vol basketball than he has boys basketball. Of course, unfortunately, I lost him before we got good at basketball. But I do want to talk about football. I mean, you guys stole the headlines this week. My man Nagy coming to Norman. How we're starting to see some more of this GM stuff. We saw, I think Andrew Luck was the first one that really stood out to me, joining Stanford. But we're seeing more of it. We got Rivera, we've got Lombardi over here in UNC. So this was big for the SEC because it's the first time we've seen it in this conference. What does this bring to Oklahoma football?
Well, I think first and foremost, you speak to the newness of it. It
Yeah,
brings flexibility because you could ask just ask GMs in college football right now. Just say, tell me in 3 sentences what you do, and you'd get different answers from all of them
yeah,
because the position's still being filled out. This is not like hiring a football coach, right? To come in and build out your program. People have been coaching football, right? Over 100 years. Like it's like that you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not doing it like with this. I compared it yesterday on radio to like being one of the first full-time strength and conditioning coaches in college football. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there was no plan before it. Like there's no way to really do it. So you get to kind of mold what it looks like. And I think that's why Jim Nagy is such a great hire. First of all, let's be honest, Oklahoma was not very good at football last year. They
Right.
needed to make some splashes. And I think they did that with John Mateer. I think they did that with Ben Arbuckle. I really think they did that with Jim Nagy because I think there was some fan base mood that was like, man, what are we doing to keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah.
What are we doing with this? You're seeing new facilities go up. You're seeing this, that, and the other. And then, I mean, you get Jim Nagy, the national response. I mean, it was insane. You had everybody. I mean, rap sheet to I mean, ESPN headlines left and right. Like obviously draft scouts, people at the combine are freaking out about it. Like NFL coaches, like
Mm-hmm.
like national rivals, like everybody's like, oh my God, Oklahoma just made a splash higher. And
Yeah.
that's what Oklahoma needed was hey, look, you may think that, we're just going to go away and be the next Nebraska. We have no intentions of that. We
Mm-mm.
are going to make sure and bring in the right guys. And, I talked earlier about kind of the uncertainty of what the job actually is. I think Jim Nagy is uniquely positioned to pivot to whatever it needs, right? He's
Yeah.
got 18 years of NFL front office experience, right? He's got creating something, and elevating something really the Senior Bowl, right? Like he made it, the draft starts in Mobile, like he made it a thing.
Yeah.
And what he was able to do with that through COVID and everything like that, it was nothing short of incredible. So just those, obvious connections, evaluation, right? Like there were times at the Senior Bowl you'd see a guy on a roster and you're like, he ends up being like a third-round pick. You're like,
Yeah.
wait, nobody's ever heard of this guy. And is that not what the portal is these days? Like
Mm.
going and evaluating talent, and he's going to be able to build out his whole staff, hire an assistant GM, do all of that. So I just think that with instead of just, hey, the guy's been an NFL GM, cool, like he was interviewing for NFL GM jobs a week ago, and Oklahoma announces his hire yesterday morning. And again, it's seismic through the
Yeah.
sport, and I think everybody caught their attention and goes. I mean, we had Texas fans. I don't know if you know Nash Talks Texas. He's a buddy of mine, and he was like, "I know this isn't going to be popular to my follower base, but that's a really good hire." Like, so
Oh,
it's good to get some national respect. We still got to win games, but
right.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you think? Because I mean, a lot of money's being spent for this. Do you feel like this is a commitment to Venables? Because it seems like right now, if you were thinking about getting rid of a coach, and I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but obviously the standards are pretty high there in Norman, and 6-win seasons are not acceptable. Too many of those, you're going to be out. I just felt like this was a little bit of a commitment to Venables going this route. Am I wrong?
I don't see it as a commitment to Venables necessarily. I see it as a
Yeah.
commitment to trying to be on the cutting edge of college football.
Okay.
I see it as, and I was talking about this 2 days ago before this announcement even came down. Just the oddity, and it's in football, sports in general are not unique to this, but it's funny how in life, if you get really, really, really good at something, then you will achieve a job that makes you not do that thing that you were really, really, really good at. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Brent Venables, one of the best defensive coordinators of the last 20, 25, 30 years, right? He
Mhm.
was so good at it that, hey, you've been rewarded with having to be the CEO of a football program now. And he's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, what? didn't y'all hire me because I was so good as a defensive coordinator? Now I get a head coaching job. And I understand that that's just how it usually works, right? Like most head coaches were elite coordinators at
Right.
one time. Obviously, you've got like your Beamers and Pittman. Like you've got others that
Right.
weren't elite coordinators. But you get what I'm saying. It's you become a CEO. All of a sudden, instead of coaching defense, which he's elite at and he's been proven to be elite at, it's hey Brent, what do you think about this NIL stuff? Like, how do you think about this roster management? What do you think about portal recruiting? What do you think about, roster retention versus acquisition? Like, what do you think about this, that, like, and all of a sudden, like, you're like, wait a minute, let Brent coach the defense. Like, let your elite defensive mind coach the defense. And I think that's the most important thing about this hire is, everybody talked about when Jim Knowles called Oklahoma and kind of threw that wrench in kind of the optics of Oklahoma. Like we were cool with just moving once Zach Allen went to West Virginia, letting Brent call the defense. Well,
Yeah.
Knowles was like, hey, I might be interested in the job. So then naturally we chase him. Penn State gets him, and we look like we got egg on our face for no reason. But that's the thing. It's like with that, everybody goes, hey, with Brent Venables coaching the defense now, who's going to be like the CEO of the program?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is Jim Nagy. Like, like that's who's handling all your stuff. Like, if you were to list after Brent Venables' first season in 2022, if you were to list the top 5 things that he didn't like about his first year as a head coach, I would argue 4 or maybe all 5 of those things are no longer his responsibility now that Jim Nagy's been hired.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's realistic. Like, I feel like he wants to coach defense. Now he can coach defense, and I think OU is gonna see immediate impact from this coming season.
Yeah, I told Mike the other day, I feel like when you wear these, it's not like the old days. It's not just showing up with a good football team and good X's and O's. And you got to be able to get money from boosters. You got to go out here and, scheduled practices and the recruiting. I mean, that recruiting's 24/7. It's a whole animal to itself. Then you got,
not only that,
portal.
because like recruiting, sure, you got to recruit your own roster.
Yeah.
Like you got to recruit other people's rosters.
Yeah.
You got to recruit your own roster. And then you've got to recruit your roster not only from other teams, but from the NFL draft, right? Because a lot of it is retention. We saw this with Ohio State big time, right? Ohio State pulled a lot of those guys back in. So I talked to a director of player personnel a few years back, SEC director of player personnel, and he goes, dude, it's a nightmare. He said, I used to be able to sign a class and then not have to worry about them for the next 3 or 4 years. He's like, now I sign a class, I've got to continue recruiting them every day for the next 3 or 4 years, or if you don't give them the attention that you get, they might leave. So it's like it goes from, for fraternity people out there, it goes from in the back in the day, a director of player personnel, head coach, whatnot. It was all rush. Oh, I was rushing the recruiting process. It's so great. Oh my gosh, they love me, they want me, blah blah. And then pledgeship hits, like, and it's not a party anymore. That's how it used to be. Now it's rushes the whole college football experience. You got to be recruited at all times. So
Trust
yeah,
me.
to your point, absolutely.
You took Gray and Wanya out there. I mean, that was like that was a dagger in the heart for a minute. But
they came to the basketball game last night. They almost ended up in a scuffle. Not them, but a scuffle broke out right in front of them. So I'm like, dude, if I were getting in a scuffle, I wouldn't mind having Wanya Morris and Anton Harrison and Eric Gray behind me.
Yeah, no joke, man. Well, that note, I'm looking at this standard, this Oklahoma standard, and I feel it's hard not to feel a little bad, especially because we cover all the SEC, not just one team. But, you look, the last 25 years, there's maybe 2 seasons, I think, that were under 8 wins. So how pissed were you that 2024 was your SEC debut?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think I look at it 2 ways. I think of one, it sucks, right? Like it's our first impression, and you step in and you're not prepared, and unfortunately you have dramatic injuries across the board. I think that's been well documented. Top 6 receivers out, 9 different starting line combinations, all season. Like that's just, it's not sustainable, especially when you're up in the competition. The schedule, ours and Florida schedules were insane. I mean, the timing couldn't have been worse because, Sankey, they all talk about, it's like, we took your last 10-year record and then So we kind of had to pay for our own success, but we were in a bloated or a non-bloated, a down Big 12,
Yeah.
stacked a bunch of wins because we were more talented than every team we walked out there with, and Texas was in their decade of suck, as people call it. So it's like with that, I think, and that's why I say I look at it two ways: is yeah, it sucked, absolutely,
Yeah.
but I think it might have forced maybe some action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it will like I'm a like in basketball, like or in any professional sport, it's like the worst place you can ever be is
Mhm.
stuck in like the 6 to 8 seed or in the play-in for the NBA, playoffs, or always playing in wild card weekend in the NFL and maybe making it like you need to eventually either suck and
Yeah.
wake you and get a shot in the arm to go be great, or like you can't just live in that 7-5 world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, especially a program like Oklahoma that ranks. I mean, people talk blue bloods all the time. I mean, like when you look at most successful programs in history, like Oklahoma is,
Yeah.
isn't looking up at anybody. Maybe outside of, thanks to Saban, now Bama, but like you look at conference championships, they've got the most. You look at the national championships. You look at the Heisman winners. You look at consensus All Americans. You look at weeks at number one. You basically go down the Winsipedia, and
Yeah.
Oklahoma's side of the ledger is usually lit up in bright red. So, yeah, I think with that, you talk the standard, like as long as we don't go back to back coaches
Yeah.
of mediocrity, like then I won't worry about the standard so much. Oklahoma, for the better part of 100 years, has got the hires right. I
Yeah.
mean, like so when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, I'm a Brent Venables guy. I really believe, especially now structurally, that he's really built to succeed. I think Arbuckle is a flat out stud. I think Mateer's going to do great things here. I think we're healthy on the offense now when we weren't last year. I think Venables gets to coach the defense. Jim Nagy can handle the CEO stuff. Like I really think we're set up well, facing a lot of
Yeah.
first time quarterbacks. In this coming season, but it's very much like, hey, if you don't get it done, then no matter how much I like you, like we have to protect the standard at the University of Oklahoma, and it's just simple as that. I assume you've seen Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
So like Christopher Walken's character,
Yeah.
where he's the dad, and he's like, you know, the Tad or whatever was like, man, stick up for me, stick up for me. He's like, hey, I always liked you, but I liked you because my daughter did. Like Brent,
Yeah.
I like you a ton, but the University of Oklahoma, the standards are the standards. So
Yes.
I do think it's going to work out really well this year. I think we're going to be a good team. Much more confident going into this year than I was last year, if I'm being 100%
Yeah.
honest.
I just
But
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I
no,
just that's what I like to hear. We had Coach Stoops out here yesterday talking about spring, and the only thing they changed was a logo on a T-shirt. You've got Coach Kelly down here donating his money for recruiting. You've got Oklahoma coming out here getting a general manager. It feels like there's a level of this. How bought in is the university? How bought in is the coaching staff? And I think this was a shot across the bow, man. I think this opened up a lot of eyes for some of these other conference teams that are sitting there at that 6, 7, 8 win bubble, saying, "Hey, are we going to stay here? Or are we going to do anything about it?" So I think it's great. You mentioned John Mateer. This is a guy that also is picking up a lot of steam, a lot of hype. By the time I told Mike, by the time I meet this kid, he's going to be 7 foot tall, 300 pounds, full of muscle. We're building him up, building him up. But
mm-hmm.
for those that may not be familiar with John's game, what is he going to bring to that quarterback room?
So we had Kendall Dolby, who Tennessee fans know well. Y'all dislocated his ankle in Norman and put him out for the season, but he'll be back this year. We had him on the radio yesterday, and he said, I consider myself a dog. He said, I got a dog mentality. And the thing about dogs, they can sniff out other dogs, man. He said, John Mateer is a dog. He said, man, he walks around like he goes around, talks to everybody like he's been in Norman, his whole life. He's leading things. They were throwing out T-shirts last night at the basketball game. He's first one up to grab a basketball, shoot it up. Like, you can just tell, like, he's 100% confident in his own skin. And let's be honest, you don't get that with young men all that often at the college level, especially when they have the limelight on him. You can tell he's 100% confident in himself. He's got the success to back it up. And I think knowing that, not unlike Jeff Lebby and Dylan Gabriel, he's got his offensive coordinator with him. He's got Ben Arbuckle that allows him. And one of the things that Ben Arbuckle said in an interview when he was at Washington State, he said, I think the most important thing you can do for your quarterbacks is make them feel like they're the baddest dude in the world. Like confidence for a quarterback is premier. And to be honest, you watched Oklahoma last year. I don't think we had a ton of confidence in the room, right? Mainly because I don't think they had a ton of confidence in the line that was protecting them or the wide receivers that they had at their disposal. So I think John Mateer coming in with elite confidence, not necessarily cockiness, that's a fine line to walk, but we had another guy around here in Norman that displayed some elite confidence, and he just, he had his coming out party down there in Tennessee. I remember some of this going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that's a dangerous comparison to make, and that's not what I'm making of it. But I've heard more of those comparisons than I've ever heard anybody since Baker. That are like, man, just this guy is like he commands a locker room. Like he's got talent. He'll force the issue offensively. He'll push the ball downfield. Like, he's aggressive. He'll try and make you pay. If you're sending pressure or anything like that, he wants to force the issue. And you watch some of his running highlights, which running at Washington State's a little bit different than running in the SEC. Totally get it. Harold Perkins isn't coming across the middle when you're playing Washington State. Like, it's simple as that. But like, I think he's got really big things ahead. I like what we did in the wide receiver transfer portal. I like that we got Deion Burks and Jaden Gibson coming back off injury. I think Mateer's gonna have a big year.
What was up with Deion? We kept waiting for him to. It felt like he was healthy. He'd be practice. He'd be going on the sideline. Was this just a kind of a wait? So we can. I don't know if it was a red shirt deal or something along those lines. But is there any reason that we didn't see him toward the tail end of the season?
Yeah, I think by that time, I think it was really like, okay, let's weigh the pros and the cons. Mm-hmm. If I'm 80%, and people will have their opinions about this, I have my opinions about this, but like, if you're 80% and you can risk injury or anything like that, and the team is trying to make bowl eligibility, sure, you'd like to make some bowl eligibility, but are you going to go out there and, last game of the season against LSU and go and try and, run routes when you don't know if the offensive line can protect? Now, at the Bama game, when we blew out the Tide, we went to a running offense, right? Yeah. We're basically a power run team at that point with quarterback run. And like, so then you're like, okay, am I going out there as a decoy? Am I going out there? Like, I just don't think there was a lot of certainty. And I think in his heart, he knew, like, look, I'm coming back next year. I don't want to put trash on film because that's a reality. Like people have access to film these days, and that affects your draft status. And if you go out there and look like crap because you're, trying to limp around at 80%, it can affect you. So I think he's excited to have an offseason to get fully healthy, new offense, downfield attacking style offense that I really think he's going to have a big year.
So he saw Jackson Arnold and he says, no, I'm going to wait till the next guy. Is that what it was?
Hey, your words, not mine. Your words, not mine.
Oh, man. Hey, we went and watched a couple Oklahoma games this year. Mike went to the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. I went to the Missouri-Oklahoma game. Obviously, those are two of the worst games of Oklahoma last year. But
he had better weather.
Yeah, at least that. On the flip side, though, you travel to Tennessee, you're going to have Mizzou at home. Is there one of those games that you're probably looking forward to the most, and why is it Mizzou?
I don't get I don't know.
Is it a rivalry? Is it a rivalry?
I think it's a rivalry that exists on Twitter. Like, like, I truly do. And like, I know Mizzou fans, I got Mizzou friends that tell me, like, well, it's an actual rivalry. Yes, it is. I'm like, I don't think it is. Like, if you were to ask OU fans, who's your rival? Texas is our rival. And then, like, you go down the line, Nebraska, right? Iconic rival that we talk about, right? People would say, Oklahoma State, especially as regional rival, right? But like, just because we played a bunch of games against them, that doesn't make it a rivalry. We had some games that were high stakes against Missouri in our time between multiple conferences with them, but like it just never hit the same. Like we had some basketball rivalry type stuff. I think we had a peace pipe. There was like one statue or like one rivalry token that you would get. But like I think the Williams Winery stuff obviously, got it going. The Caden Green stuff got it going. Obviously, Theo Weiss felt some type of way. I never had any problems with Theo in my life, but Theo felt some type of way about OU fans, and took that game personally. And it is what it is. I do think the SEC, for whatever reason, is like trying to force that to be a rivalry. It's like it's like when if you get two people that transfer to your school, like, and you find out that they also went to the same school, doesn't matter if they hung out or not. You're gonna make those two people. Oh yeah, we group you together, right? You guys probably had all kinds of fun times at your former school. No, we didn't really hang out. Like just because we came from the same place doesn't mean that we're just boys. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's kind of a weird force thing. I'm not sure. I guess would would Arkansas be Missouri's biggest rival now? I just don't know if they have a natural rival in the SEC because I don't know. I don't know. Hey, I'm here, man. I'm still my first year in this conference.
They just went to 9. I mean, well, it hasn't officially happened, but it looks as though we're going to be going to 9 SEC games. And if that's the case, and we have 3 permanent rivalries, and they come to you, Travis. They said, Travis, you've got the magic one. What 3 games do you want Oklahoma to have? Who would you put in there?
I would do Texas, obviously.
Right.
I would do Arkansas because I live in Tulsa and I'm pretty much equidistant between Norman and Fayetteville, and I drive to every game, so I'm being a bit selfish. What of it? This is my 3. I get to pick.
Yeah.
But Arkansas also, my sister graduated to the U of A. I actually used to live in Fayetteville when I was a young child. I actually got caught, you'll like this, on ESPN with my media credentials and OU polo around my neck, calling the Hogs at Omaha in 2022. We weren't playing them, obviously. We didn't play them in 2022. They were on the other side of the bracket. But I grew up like going to rolling with Nolan basketball games, walking down Dixon like when I was 5 years old. So I would love an Arkansas Oklahoma rivalry. We need somebody to replace that Oklahoma State kind of like just regional rivalry. So I would go Texas, Arkansas, and then this may shock people, but LSU.
Ooh.
Like LSU, they don't have like we played them on rivalry week last week.
Yeah.
And I think that's because LSU, it's like you ask some, it's like, okay, like who's LSU's natural rival? Well, it's like, I mean, they've got like
we forced Florida on them.
Right, but then you have like an A&M
Alabama,
thing,
yeah.
Alabama kind of like a Saban thing, and then like, but that's why
Mississippi
I think,
State. I mean, that's a big one.
Right, but like we already have Texas as our rival, but we play them in October, so like we'll be and then they play A&M, obviously Texas does on rivalry week. So Oklahoma and LSU are 2 massive brands football wise that kind of don't have a dancing partner for rivalry week. So I see that as a natural fit that might surprise people, but I enjoy it. I'm good buddies with Jamar Kane still. I went to LSU game like on our bye week as a just a third party, pedestrian citizen. So I enjoy being down there. I love the food down there. That's definitely goes into part of my decision is I really like Cajun food. But yeah, I would probably do Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana State.
Okay, I'd sign up for it. I got to ask you. You live in Oklahoma. I have a buddy that lives out there, and have you ever seen a tornado? Have you ever been like? And is it like as often as like? I don't know. I'm a big Twister fan, and the new one. Let me ask you, Twisters new one came out. Were you like, what is this? Or were you like, hey, this is not too far off here?
Well, I liked it. I do think that our tourism department, Matt Pinnell, I'm pretty sure that he would not want
Yeah.
everybody just to think that this state is just, out here just tornadoes every day. There are a lot of them for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that movie. So Reed Timmer came on radio with us. He's like the internet's most followed like storm chaser.
Yeah.
Like he has rockets in his car. He's got the Terminator 3 that's got like it looks like the Batmobile. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But that's kind of who that character was based on, was him, because he's kind of that kind
I
of
got you.
in my mind the cowboy is storm chasing. But he's a big deal, old Reed. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a tornado. I've seen multiple tornadoes. You do have people in the state that just kind of watch and they just know, like they just know. I mean, I lived in Tulsa a long time. I've never been a part of any damage from a tornado. I mean, high winds, sure,
Yeah.
but like it's not to the point. Like there are certain towns in Oklahoma that have gotten destroyed a couple times over, which I would probably just move out of those towns. But
Yeah.
like in Tulsa, I never really have to deal with any massive stuff. But yeah, I've seen multiple.
Man, that's crazy. I've had nightmares about them, but I've never actually seen one. So I wouldn't mind going out maybe with, I've seen the trucks that like ground itself, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would like, but it would have to be like a 2 or something, or a 1 even. Maybe even just like
one.
yeah, just as small as possible, anchored in, just to say I've seen it. And I don't actually want it to come over me like the movies. I just want to be like near it so I could kind of see it in action. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. We'll ease you into it. We'll ease you into it.
Yeah. So
We're
maybe
gonna
we can work
try and
something.
so me and my co-host, I don't know if you've met Tyler McComas. He's on radio with me. We do the post game shows on KREF. He's an awesome dude. Reed Timmer came on air with us for a post game show, and we are this close to convincing him to let us take the Terminator 3 to I say Terminator, Dominator, his vehicle out to like one of the SEC games and tailgate from it. Like and do that as like, hey, this is our radio remote, and basically he's got a tour of it. Like search Reed Timmer vehicle on YouTube and just look at his
Will he
vehicle.
let people ride with him? Or is that a no-go?
It might be. I think it's I mean, I could put you two in touch, but he's got like a team that goes with him. So I'm not sure you would. I'm not sure you would make it. I don't think he sells rides. Like
I'm also one of those that like talks a mad game until we get there, and I'm like, shit, I ain't doing that. So all right.
If your version of talking a mad game is maybe wanting to see an F1 go by you in the distance.
yes, that's what. But that's how it starts. Then all of a sudden, I'm part of Twisters 3. I don't want to be that like a cow flying around. So
yeah, I'm not sure that qualifies as a mad game, but also like, what are you gonna do if you're out there and you're like, oh, there's one right there. We could just stay here, and the chaser or Reed or whatever is just like, no, we're gonna drive over there. What are you gonna do? Get out and run?
Well, I think I could mark it off the list if I saw it, and I haven't ran since the '80s, so we're going to mark that one off as well. So.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's going to be up to you. Like I don't think you could backseat drive one of those things.
No, you're probably right. But I wouldn't mind to at least have that opportunity. So
noted.
Speaking of opportunities, man, when you come up here to Tennessee, we're going to share a cold drink.
Oh yes, yeah. That's one reason.
Should I bring it? Should I bring some of his fine Kentucky bourbon with me?
Yeah, like I said, I got some. I'm packing. You know what I will bring?
What's that?
We'll bring some horns down apple pie.
Come on now.
I use it as I use it like as like instead of simple syrup or like Arabic gum sugar or something in an old fashioned.
Yeah.
I put that in there. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So, but yeah, it's not just an OU thing to hate Texas. Y'all will get used to it.
Oh, trust me, I'm starting to pick it up pretty quick over here.
Yep, yeah, it comes on you quick. But yeah, I'll probably one of the reasons. So I drive to every game. I drove to BYU. I'll be driving to Temple. Like I drive to every game. Part of the reason is I like to do some bourbon hunting.
Yeah,
and I like to find a little honey hole on the way and see if they've got some dusties in there and grab them and then make my way back. There have been times that I've been on football trips and I found one. I'm like, oh my god, like I've spent entirely too much time and too much money on bourbon.
Hell
But even
yeah.
like when we went to Cincinnati, when we were still back in the Big 12, like right across the river is New
Mhm.
Riff, and I love New
Yeah.
Riff.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, we stayed on that side, and hung out at the hung out at the distillery, and then went over and did the game the next day. It was a blast. But yeah, I
That's
can't wait
awesome.
to come down there.
Hell yeah, man. Well, one last thing before you get out of here, man. And well, look, two things. I want to ask you, where can they find you? Let me do that first because this next one's going to kind of catch you off guard.
Okay, here we go. You can find me at Travis Skoll on Instagram and on Twitter, and then KREF. We're the home of Sooner fans, so we talk all OU all day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. We carry the OU baseball games. We do a ton. We've got all the big Sooner voices on there: Teddy Lehman, Tyler McComas, Mike Steely, Parker Thune.
Mhm.
We've got Chris Plank. We've got Toby Rowland for a while, the voice of the Sooners, even though he just announced after 21 and a half years, they'll be stepping down from that show. But yeah, KREF, and then find me on social media at Travis Skoll. I need to connect with more SEC people. I need
Yeah.
more. I got a lot of OU people, in
Hell
my
yeah.
echo chamber. I need some more just SEC people, especially. I'm going to be traveling to all these games. I'm going to need bourbon recommendations, food recommendations in that order. I'm going to need this stuff. So hit me up, people.
Last thing I got for you, man. Let's say 2025 is a perfect season. John Mateer is just what we thought he was. Venable, doesn't have to deal with the other shit. He could just focus on the defense. They are who we thought they are. You know, we look, Nagy's out here recruiting, opens up this new portal. We find maybe one or two and whatever. Let's just say it's a perfect season. Best case scenario, what is Oklahoma's record 2025? And I'll pull it up here so you can see.
Let's
Oh, wait, let
see.
me get 25 here.
Best.
Best case scenario, Illinois State, win or loss.
I mean, win,
Michigan, best
win,
case scenario. Temple,
win. Although I
Auburn.
love that that's a road game. I can't wait to take a trip to the Northeast to watch football.
Yeah, felt a little UMass esque, like Mizzou did last year.
I'll take it.
Auburn,
Win,
Kent State,
big win.
Texas.
Honestly, it's a win. I mean, I think they're recruiting at an elite level. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Just signed the number one class. Sark has
Mhm.
proven that he has aligned the donors. But first year starting quarterback, I get Arch is a Manning. I get it. That's like royalty down there in your part of the country. But like like Arch is going to be first year starting against a
Yeah.
guy that's played a lot of good football. Like we've got now a bunch of defensive coordinators on staff that can game plan ahead of time. Obviously, just brought on two defensive coordinators, including Clemson, old defensive coordinator. And Texas is going to lose what, 3 or 4 position coaches they've lost now,
Mhm.
and they're sending, I think, the largest draft class in Texas history. Like, yes, they've been recruiting at an elite level, and I agree that they've got a couple kids that are just straight up dudes. They've got probably 2 of the best defenders in the country on that same defense. But I just think you're gonna have to replace a lot of production. I just want to see him do it again. So I think
Yeah.
Oklahoma, year 4 in Brent Venables' defense, Arbuckle and Mateer got something cooked up. Yeah, I think
Hey.
you're asking best case scenario. It's a win over Texas.
Yeah, you ain't got to explain why you whoop their ass. I mean, this is best case scenario. I'm right there with you. I think best case scenario, if Oklahoma and Mateer and all these guys are just like we thought, I don't see any reason why Texas would be a loss. So South Carolina, that was ugly last year. What do you think? Best case scenario this season?
Yeah, we played them. I mean, I know they naturally take the foot off the gas late when they get such a big lead due to turnovers, but I think that's best case scenario is a win. I think we stack up well. Dylan Stewart's a dude, no doubt. Lenore Sellers
Yeah.
I like a lot, but yeah, we think we stack up well.
Ole Miss?
Yeah, new quarterback for them. I know they're portal happy, but they got a lot of drama going down there in Oxford right now, so I think they're a little distracted. I think we're going to get
Yeah.
them.
Hey, I like it, man. 8-0, best case scenario so far. Tennessee Vols.
Oh yeah, win. Best case scenario? You kidding me?
Bama.
Oh man, that might be on a worst case scenario. We could beat them, but I mean, we mollywhopped them last
You
time,
already got
24 to
that one.
3.
Mizzou, LSU. I don't even think I need to ask. Best
The
case scenario, I think Oklahoma's going undefeated, right?
best, but and also here's the thing. I don't think a lot of schools can say it, but 12-0 until proven otherwise. Like
Yeah.
Oklahoma is one of the winningest programs of all time. Like you've got championship winning coaches all over the staff. You got a guy that just led the nation in touchdowns coming in. You've got all this like best case scenario. Yeah, is always 12-0. If it gets to the point where best case scenario at Oklahoma is not 12-0, then something has gone horribly wrong. Like we've got like back-to-back coaching hires wrong, 3 coaching hires wrong. Something's been absolute. Maybe a twister hit the stadium. I don't know. Like something had to have happened when the ceiling at Oklahoma is not 12-0.
So,
I mean, look back at 99, man.
Yeah.
99, we weren't very good, right? Bob Stoops, what did he do in 2000?
Yeah, I'm
Pretty
right
good.
there with you.
Pretty good.
We're going to clip out best case scenario and put it on Twitter. I appreciate you, Travis. Thank you for joining us here in Ball Band. It truly was a pleasure, and I look forward to meeting you personally. I think you talked about going to the Tennessee game, so hopefully we can have a couple beers down on the river. And in the meantime, I hope all goes well down there in Norman, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. Have me on anytime. Text me. You got my cell. And until we meet again, sir. Cheers.
You got it. See you guys.